Hi there, I'm David Rettig. I'm CEO of Synoptus, and this is the first in a series of videos about leadership development. We're going to talk about 4 leadership myths and how you can overcome them. The first of these myths is that a leader knows. A leader should know if they're a good leader. A leader should know if they're a bad leader. A leader should know areas that they need to work on to become a better leader. A little bit about Synoptus. Synoptus provides IT operational excellence by providing the people, processes, and technologies to maximize your IT investment. I started Synoptus because as I've worked with organizations, I've consistently heard the message that our IT is too expensive, too slow, or too inflexible. And Synoptus provides the services to help your IT organization maximize their value to the business. So let's get into the leadership. So if you do a survey of people, 9 out of 10 people will report that they're self-aware. However, when you test self-awareness, only 1 out of 10 people actually report that, or actually show that they're self-aware. So you've got a majority of people, 9 out of 10 of the people who are watching this video, believe that they are self-aware, but only 1 of them actually are. You may be saying, well, Dave, I'm probably the one, but chances are, in fact, it's 8 times more likely that you're one of the people who believes they're self-aware and isn't, then you're the 1 in 10 person who is self-aware and believes you are. So another interesting thing that affects leadership is Dunning and Kruger were researchers that discovered the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect says that you don't know what you don't know. People with low ability overestimate their skill. So it's the armchair quarterback syndrome, right? Somebody's sitting at home, they've never played a game of football in their life, but they've watched lots of football, and so they think, I would make a great quarterback. So people with low leadership skills often overestimate their own skill. So another thing that affects leaders is the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is that successful leaders often feel self-doubt or a lack of confidence in their own abilities. And so you've got leaders who are highly successful, who, when they examine themselves, think, I'm a fake. I'm not real, or if someone really knew all about me, they wouldn't follow me. So these 3 things are a recipe for disaster. You've got good leaders who feel like bad leaders because of the imposter syndrome. You've got bad leaders who feel like they're great leaders because of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And only 1 in 10 of them are self-aware enough to actually make that evaluation. These 3 psychological biases are the cause of many leadership problems, right? A leader can't really evaluate themselves if they're not self-aware, and they may have a wrong, either too high or too low opinion of themselves. So how do you address this? Feedback. When you do the research, most leaders desire good feedback. The number 1 thing that leaders ask for is feedback, honest feedback, where they can improve. Most leaders really want to get better. Getting honest feedback increases self-awareness. It provides an objective assessment rather than the subjective opinion of yourself. It provides an objective assessment of your leadership skills, which helps overcome the Dunning-Kruger effect and helps overcome the imposter syndrome. Unfortunately, it's difficult to get good feedback. There's a lot of barriers to feedback. The politics of an organization, and politics are not always bad. Corporate politics are simply the result of power and authority. Anytime there's an imbalance of power and authority, in other words, more than one person in an organization, one person who has another person reporting to them, or where the balance of power isn't equal, there's corporate politics. And so politics, that power imbalance, makes feedback difficult. Some cultures make feedback difficult. They value collaboration and consensus over direct and honest feedback. Some collaboration and consensus is good, but too much collaboration and consensus makes speaking the truth to people far more difficult. Organizational roles. Some people may not believe it's their role to give feedback to the boss or to the CEO. And so they think, well, gosh, these people are so amazingly successful. They're so far ahead of me in their career. How can I speak into their professional lives? Or maybe they don't even care. They don't want to hear what I have to say. Emotions can get in the way of real feedback. People are fearful, or the halo effect. They like somebody, and so they only see the good stuff. The converse of that's true. If you dislike your boss, you're more likely to focus on the bad stuff. So there's a lot of emotional issues that get involved in providing feedback. And often psychological safety is a problem. Psychological safety is this idea that an organization provides an environment in which someone can speak freely without fear of retribution. And even if that exists in an organization, it's whether or not the person feels like that situation exists. It's got to be more than lip service. They actually have to provide psychological safety. And there's an easy way to test for psychological safety. I do this a lot in my coaching sessions. I'll say, imagine you're talking to the CEO of your company, and they had done something that you feel is wrong or was hurtful to you personally, or they didn't do their job well. Now imagine that you are walking into the CEO's office and you're going to tell them that they did a poor job. Take a minute and think how you would feel in that moment. You're standing before their desk. They're waiting for you to give them this hard feedback. How you feel right now is how your team feels giving feedback to you. Because psychological safety is a culture thing. It's not you're a nice person and your team wants to give feedback to you. It's whether or not they feel safe in their organization. And so if you feel good about speaking hard truths to your boss or your boss's boss or all the way up the ladder, you probably are in one of the few organizations that has high levels of psychological safety. So how do we overcome those barriers and get good feedback? Well, one thing you need to do is eliminate the politics, and this often has to do with seeking feedback from someone outside of your power or circle of authority or influence. So you need to get feedback from someone in which you don't have the disparity of power. Someone who doesn't report to you, doesn't report to someone you report to, someone that you don't have any influence over in the organization. You have to rise above the culture, and that's establishing a culture where feedback isn't just expected, or isn't just wanted, but is expected. It's an essential component to leadership development and growth. If you simply do lip service to feedback, you're not going to get good feedback. No role conflict. Again, this has to do with the eliminating politics, and where you've given people permission to speak to you honestly and truthfully. No emotional conflict. This is harder. Anytime there's a relationship, there tends to be emotional conflict. So finding someone in whom you can separate the feedback from the relationship. And lastly, assess the psychological safety. And as I talked about, that's an organizational trait, not an individual trait. So being able to assess your psychological safety and create an organization where psychological safety is paramount is essential to good feedback. So what do you do if one way to address those that eliminate some of these challenges is to seek professional feedback. Leadership coach is a professional feedback partner. If you can't find somebody in your organization, seeking professional feedback, someone who will develop a relationship with you and whose job it is to challenge you as a leader, be a mirror, and provide both positive and negative assessments of your capacity as a leader is one way to overcome the myth that you should just know as a leader. And creating that self-awareness is the first step to growth. If you need a leadership coach, I'd be happy to help you. We have several leadership coaches in Synoptus, and feel free to reach out. Thanks for your time. I hope you found this video enjoyable, and we'll look for the next episodes coming up shortly.